Hey class, okay, so the last part of 9.2 you need to know about are some vocab words, and we're really not doing anything with this except for knowing the vocabulary, and if I gave you a circle, you being able to identify parts. We're going to draw a little diagram here, so draw yourself a circle. I've got a center that we're going to call point O. I've got a diameter, and these 2 points are P and R. I've got another segment here that's a radius, and then I'm going to draw in 2 lines. I'm going to have a line through P and Q, and I'm going to have a line that just comes right up to R and just touches the circle right at that spot. Alright, so I already mentioned several of the vocab words as we were talking. Here's the things you need to know. You need to know that which part is the center of the circle. So right now the center is just the spot in the middle. So that is the center. And we're focused more on you being able to identify the parts and not being able to explain it in words. So we'll give you a circle and ask you to identify what part of a circle is what, but you won't be able to have to list out the name in words or the definition in words. So some of these things I will give you a definition of because I think you might not remember it, and some of them I won't. So let's do a few that I won't give you a definition for. Point O is the center of the circle, just the middle of the circle. OP, if I go just from O to P, that's a radius of the circle. And you guys already know a radius is just halfway across. If I go the full way across of the circle, P to R would be an example of a diameter of a circle. So the diameter goes the whole way across of a circle. And now let's get into some of the stuff you may not know. So if I go from P to Q, so it does not go through the center, just any spot to any other spot, that is called a chord. So a chord of a circle, it's specifically a segment, not a line, but it's always a segment, whose endpoints both lie on the circle. A segment whose endpoints both lie on the circle, not inside it, actually on the edge of the circle. And it's a segment always. So that's a chord. If I do the entire line, so for a chord or a segment, I stop at the endpoints, so it's just this part. But if I'm talking about the entire line, including the arrows that are going in each direction to infinity, that is called a secant line. And you can tell the difference in my little name here. I have a segment and then I have a line with the arrows, and that's called, again, a secant line. So it's the same thing. It cuts through the circle in 2 points, but then it keeps going to infinity in both directions. So let's say this intersects the circle in 2 points, but it's a line specifically, not just a segment. All right, we've got 3 more. That line I just drew in, this line here through R, let's put another point on it and we'll call that point T. That line from R to T, that's called a tangent line. And it's specifically a tangent line is a line that touches a circle in just one spot. And I realize my picture is a little faulty here, but this line is supposed to come right up and only touch at R. So a tangent line touches the circle at exactly 1 point. All right, next we're going to talk about an arc. So an arc of a circle, it has 2 endpoints and it's on the edge of the circle. So for example, from P to Q would be an arc. So it's from any point to any other point along the edge of a circle. So for that one, let's just write down a few examples. And when you write a name for an arc, you always use a little arc-like looking symbol. And then another arc would be from Q to R, another arc would be from R to P. And also, this diameter line I draw, it split my circle into 2 equal parts. So last vocabulary word If you have a arc that is exactly half the circle, and I know it's exactly half the circle because it's from one side of a diameter to the other side of a diameter, it's called a semicircle. Semicircle just means it's a half circle. So a semicircle is a half circle, and we also name it just, it is an arc, it's just a special arc. So the name would look something like that. All right, write down any questions you have, and thanks for listening.